Okay, so like I said, a lot of this should be fairly familiar when it comes to whenever you look through this packet, a lot of these terms should be familiar as far as because you've learned probably this stuff in physical science. You've probably learned a lot of it in um, biology or whatever, right? You've learned it in these classes. And so it's really almost like a review, and just so you know what these terms are. And they should look very, very familiar. And so I'm only going to go over just a few terms, and we're going to talk about this stuff very, very generally. And then what I thought we would do is kind of like we did last week is we'll break up the glands and stuff, and we'll break y'all up into groups, let y'all deal with those, and then probably Monday we'll talk about them together. Sound good? Because I kind of like that a little bit, where we're just kind of talking about everything and kind of breaking it down together, all right, as a group. And so we'll do that from time to time. We have the central nervous system, the CNS, okay? CNS, central nervous system, right? And that's two parts. That's the brain and the spinal cord, right? The brain is the computer, right? It's the one thing that interprets, stores information, sends and receives information, right? It's the computer that operates our system, okay? It's one thing like when I was teaching martial arts, I'd always tell people you protect the computer, right? Anytime you're in self-defense or anything else, you protect the computer, because if the computer goes down, the rest of the body goes down. So the computer is very important, and it is in the mental process and in behavior and everything else, right? If the computer goes down or is broken, the rest of the system tends to go as well, okay? And so the same thing is true with the spinal cord, right? When the spinal cord gets damaged, right, other systems get affected as well, all right? So the central nervous system is made up of two things, the brain and the spinal cord, right? The next system that you have, right, is you have the peripheral nervous system, the PNS, okay? And it's broke down into some different areas as well, okay? And there's a really good chart in your book. My book, it's 64. Yours, it's, I don't know, I didn't write it down. It's on your papers, though. But it's a really great a chart and how it's just really broken down. So you have the nervous system, central nervous system, and then the peripheral nervous system, right? And this translates, this has different areas as well, right? And it transmits information to the computer, to the spinal cord, is what the peripheral nervous system does, the PNS. Okay, but it's broke down into a couple different ways as well. The somatic nervous system, okay, which encompasses like voluntary muscle movements, okay, and involuntary muscle movements. So sometimes when we have some things we don't think is involuntary muscle movements, or we think are voluntary muscle movements, but they're also included within this. It also includes like our senses as well are included with this. But that's our somatic nervous system, okay? We also have the autonomic nervous system as well. So the autonomic nervous system is divided into two areas as well, all right? And so I will not ask you to break this chart down, okay? So don't freak out about that, all right? On the test, I'm not going to ask you to break this chart down, all right? Because I don't think it's that important I think it's important for you to know this information to be able to understand, but I do not think it's important for you to have to break down a chart of this. Are y'all following me? Okay. But I think it's understandable for general knowledge. All right. So there's two parts of the autonomic system. Okay, there's two divisions. All right. And so what the autonomic nervous system is, it's more or less an automatic system, okay? And it controls glands and organs and involuntary muscles, okay? Now, you also have the somatic nervous system, all right? Now, it does some automatic systems like the heart and the stomach, but some of that's voluntary and involuntary, okay? It depends on where it's controlled within the spinal cord. And so that's where the division comes in these, okay? All right, but let's focus back on the autonomic nervous system, okay? All right, it's pretty much automatic, right? This is all involuntary stuff, okay? So there's two divisions to this. There's the sympathetic division and the parasympathetic division, okay? The sympathetic division is the fight or flight reflexes, okay? So, and I never really understood this. Like, I didn't understand how and where this came from, but there was, in that it was ingrained into us this way, is that this system of the fight or flight, like when it comes to me, like when I would do martial arts and stuff, I knew that this was in us somehow, but I didn't know it was like physically ingrained into our nervous system. Like I didn't know it was part of our biological makeup. Like I didn't know it was ingrained into us. Like I guess I was absent that day in my psychology class. Like I skipped out because I don't remember ever learning this in college. Like I don't remember learning this, and I'm reading through this like, oh, okay, well that's interesting to know. But what this system does, right, is it stimulates the muscles or organs, the heart, the lungs, the muscle to react. Like so, when something happens, right, we either flee from it, right, or we fight. The fight or flight reflexes, right? Our muscles and our body does something, right? It reacts without us thinking about it, okay? Now, the other side, the flip side of that, is the parasympathetic division of this, right? This would be the opposite. It'd be the eat, drink, and rest system, all right? It's the opposite of the other one, right? Its job is to return us back to normal, okay? So you could see how these systems, if they got out of whack in psychology, right, how it could affect your body in such a negative way, right? It can mess with your mental process, correct? If those systems were affected by what we learned yesterday, right, by the neurotransmitters, if those are affected in a negative way, these processes could be affected in a negative way, and it can mess up our systems, correct? And then we have a biological reason why we don't feel right. We don't feel good. It's not just in our head, okay, as people like to say. All right? And so just remember this, right? We have the nervous system, we have the central nervous system, and the peripheral nervous system, the CNS and the PNS, right? The central nervous system is made of the brain and the spinal cord. The PNS is the autonomic nervous system and the somatic nervous system. And then you have divisions of the underneath the autonomic nervous system, which is the parasympathetic division and the sympathetic division. Sorry, words are hard, okay? I graduated from this school too. All right? And then under the somatic nervous system, you have the sensory system and the motor system, right? Which basically means this, is that you have systems that carry messages to both the central nervous system for your muscles and your glands, okay? Now, what we're going to do, all right, is we're going to break things up on the glands, and you'll look on your paper on the worksheets that I put out, and you have glands all in the back, right, the last 2 pages, right? We're going to break up into groups. Y'all are going to work on those glands. I'm going to divide those out into your groups. You work on just a certain part of them. We'll talk about them on Monday because Fridays are fun Fridays. You can work on your work on Fridays, but that's more of a chill day, and we'll work on that on Monday when we come back. Sound good? All right? But most of this stuff, when you read through it, you'll go, man, I learned this in science. This is stuff, it's real familiar, okay? The gland stuff, probably not, okay? And just be aware that the book that you have online is a science book, all right? And so I try to throw warnings out there when images come up, all right? So if you look through it, there's images, okay? So don't worry about it. It's science, okay? The human body is in this book, okay? But anyway, all right. So anyway, do y'all have any questions so far? Just no. All right. I'm going to divide things out, and we will go from there, okay?